And greetings, everyone. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Um, got the like, share, and subscribe button down there I want everybody to hit. And of course, there's a PayPal link down in the details for anybody that wants to share some love. And of course, the StreamYard link is down there for anybody that wants to join the panel. And we've got John with us again tonight. How you doing, John?
How you doing, Keith?
Good, good, good. If you see the title there, it says we're going to do a review of the Universal Postal Union, the post office. This is another video I did a couple years back. And again, it relates to the judicial element that we're dealing with and our ability to negotiate instruments at the international level. And again, it's concerning a global postal trust services. And so there, the negotiations of those contracts is actually the ability to have ourselves recognized as the benefactor outside of the contract. And this is that thing about the powers so delegated to these organizations are not so delegated without the source being the people and the consent thereof. Basic principle. None of these fictional entities have any kind of authority of their own unless so delegated from a source in reality. So we're going to take a look at this video, and there are a couple others that I did in alignment with it. What is a hawala? And then the blockchain, private blockchain tactics. And so I'll be doing a review on those here in the next few days as well. You got anything you want to say before we get into this, John?
Nope. Got nothing.
All right, we're going to get right into it then.
So we have to think about this stuff. And like I've been explaining in my research. Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Come to you today with another piece of information to help solidify everything back together. Show you where the true foundation is, just like I've been saying. So pay attention and take some notes, particularly the link when I post it. So feel free, everybody that's here already, go ahead and hit that share button, share this video. We're going to talk about the most important trust that they believe in on this planet. And I've been telling people for a long time, it's a postal trust. It's the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union that indentures and supports all other constitutions of the other nations that are subject and indentured in that agreement through the UN.
And like I said yesterday, those documents, the constitutions up and down the line, coincide with the contractual terms, thereby bounding them, which at the international is the Incoterms. The federal level is the U.S. Code and the Code of Federal Regulations. And then at the state level, it's the statutes.
Both the Peace Treaty of Berne and the Law of Nations. And those nations are indentured through the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union, and then have sub-treaties, 560 some sub-treaties under that through Her Majesty's UCC. A lot of people are familiar with that term, UCC. That's an acronym in this case. It is not the Uniform Commercial Code. It is the Uniform Customs Code.
And again, at every level, there is a coinciding set of regulations for the taxes. You have the international UCC, which is her union's customs codes, a harmonized tariff system on the international level. And then you have the IRS, which is a harmonized tariff system at the United States level. And then you have your states have their own tax systems, all delegated by some form of Congress.
Majesty's Uniform Customs Code. These are the customs laws at the borders, just like at law and in law. They are at the borders of every nation indentured through that Constitution. That Constitution of that nation is still subject to the Postal Constitution. Therefore, it is still the Postal Service that has ultimate authority over the Coast Guard, Customs Bureau, things like that. It's a Customs Bureau.
And again, we're talking about the Royal Navy and then the other 192 navies around the world indentured under the UN.
So we have to think about this stuff. And like I've been explaining in my recent task with PayPal, we finally got someone to recognize that private postal routing. Okay. And all I had to do was express it. It's freedom of transit guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union. And that is the first article of the Universal Postal Union's Constitution, which all the other nations, like I said, that are involved in that UN agreement for the Treaty of Berne and the Law of Nations under the UCC, Her Majesty's Customs Codes.
And again, when it comes to the PayPal issue, remember in the video the other day we discussed it started out as naval wars, then it extended into postal wars, and now we're living in an era of banking wars.
Apply through that indenture of the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union to then place their constitution, their national constitution, in a trust form for that country's records, that country's history. And that Constitution of the United States starts out with to form a more perfect union. Both that and the union, the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union, those are labor unions. This comes to Titus 3:8 in King James Version of the Bible, wherein it's faithful, that so long as you do the good works unto the word of God, those are the works that are profitable unto men. Anything in that Constitution of the Universal Postal Union that's indentured through a commercial route is therefore indenturing that as the uniform to become part of that uniform customs codes.
And again, all of these codes are extensions of the scriptures. So when we talk about the freedom of transit is guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union, the way I correlate it is Psalms 121 verse 8. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. It's basically the initial concept of a passport.
And therefore it's an underwriting. It's an insurance program.
And there's the other part. All of these constitutions have another correlating document. It's a set of documents in order to show that you're an organization. You're well organized and having full powers. But as we discussed the plenary definition the other day, you already have full powers of your natural inherent abilities, and it needs nothing further than that. Your yea is your yea, your nay is your nay. So again, all of these documents have correlating insurances, underwritings.
This is the marine insurance, the inland marine insurance, and then the common carrier insurance, known as commercial insurance for interstate transportations. And that's the transportation title 49, wherein you have the description of various different things. But the motor vehicle operator's lease is in the tax code.
And wherein we saw the other day in Title 49 is where they have the judicial review. And then, of course, in the transportation title again, the definition of commerce is found, and it states specifically, commerce means traffic, transportation, or trade.
Why do you think the Postal Service doesn't have license plates? And what is it you have to do to send something through or into the mails? You have to buy a postal stamp, and you do that with the nation's internal currency. Now, if you go to a post office and you want to buy a $1 stamp, you can use a ruble in $1 form. And the Postal Service is the international monetary exchange through, again, that indenture with the Treaty of Berne, wherein the Swiss.
So therefore, we get to that concept of dollar for dollar. Just because you're on the American soil doesn't mean you have to use those Federal Reserve notes. And in fact, when you use those Federal Reserve notes under 12 U.S.C. 411, you're presumed to be performing the functions similar to that of a transfer agent, and therefore your actions will speak louder than your words, and that is what the presumption sits on the record. You have to rebut that. I'm not a resident. I'm not a transfer agent. I'm the benefactor, pure and simple. Learn how to qualify that and learn how to state it in all contracts, because all contracts are associated with a trust, whether it be public or private.
And Keith, the
Yes.
FRNs are exempt from stamp duty. Is that correct?
Correct. Because they're used to pay debts. And again, in the tax code, again, it says taxes are duly paid by stamp, but it's the job of the transfer agent that is supposed to be able to do that. You are not such an agent. You don't have documentation showing that you're incorporated to a capacity that you can have a board of directors so you can operate similarly.
Puts out the weights and measures for those scales that they use. Give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Give unto our Father what belongs to our Father. Can you put me on a scale and tell me how much it's going to cost to mail me? Or are you going to try to tell me I'm required to have a passport when in fact King James Version of the Bible says 128, or excuse me, Psalms 121, verse 8, the Lord shall preserve that going out and that's coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. And that I believe is concurrent, congruent, and conclusively in agreement with freedom of transit is guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union. That's an expression of their trust in congruence with the trust.
So therefore, we have two records that you can use as a witness. Now you've come forth with three witnesses, because you're a witness unto yourself and your competency to be able to show such correlation. You can't deny it. They say basically the same thing. They're just using different grammar.
The trust. So let's take a look at this. The real trust, as opposed to the Post Office, Global Postal Trust Services, under the Universal Postal Union. You see how that reads? The Post Office, Global Postal Trust Services, under the Universal Postal Union. Postal Trust Services as opposed to goods, being a labor source or labor resource. Okay. And I like this because this one here, the format is very easy to read. You notice it's got nice blue, easy background, big lettering. I haven't gone all the way into it because I really don't need to go much farther than I already have to explain what I'm going to explain. And again, like I said, I'm going to post a link, and it's not giving me. There it is. And so there's the link in the comment section on Facebook, guys. So there's that. And then as we go back, like I said, it's the Postal Trust Services. They're providing specifically services, okay, not goods, okay? And it's Martin Rowe, ROEM, at postoffice.co. I believe that to be like Customs Office, United Kingdom. Universal Postal Union, electronic services. See, we've gone from the snail mail to an electronic service. Like I said, it's all postal roads and routes. Every routing, every road is postal. If you are going to post numbers and other identifiers,
of mine,
then it is your post. It is your work. You're the one doing the work to provide that posting. Okay? But we are not providing a service. The service is provided so we can post.
How's it going,
That's what
man?
the service is about. It's a virtual service to provide an understanding of
We are well.
joint electronic commerce
Good.
and trust.
How about yourself?
Just popped in, seeing you were streaming, so checking it out.
All right. Appreciate your support, brother.
Yeah, you know
Service
it.
initiatives. And what I want to point out here, folks, is like I've been saying for a long time, we get involved in these contracts and stuff, and everybody thinks they need to learn contract terms and conditions in order to enforce that contract. No, you can learn the contract terms and conditions so you know how it's being enforced to rebut it, because you can have the a superior and primary element of being the beneficiary of the trust. Being able to use that freedom of transit is guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union by proving that it is the underwriting of the scriptures. Rule 803 says exception to the rule of hearsay. Number 2 says excited utterances. So hallelujah for scriptures, because they are the most ancient documents. And they speak of something greater, where this postal union gets their indenture trust form here to provide that same service. And that is the freedom of speech, to be able to press a record and to make sure that somebody else isn't pressing a false record. We're not supposed to be lying about our brothers. So when somebody places even the little white lie, we can and should speak up. Speak up. Again, we don't have to write anything down. All we have to do is express the trust. Okay? So let's continue on.
I trust that you're conducting these affairs in good faith, and that if we recognize any errors, you would be diligent in researching on the correction and how to do so.
Developed by individual post offices What are individual post offices? Individual post offices are post offices at the end of the line, the last mile, just like a railroad stop. A rail is like a bar. And
That's that contract postal unit wherein you have one of their mailboxes attached to the house with a bonded number on it. You're considered the contract postal officer of that unit, whether it be a residence or a principal place of business.
there's a rule that you can't go over it. You can't go past it. Rule roads are the written documents known as rules that guide you along the routes. Okay? Facilitated and supported by the UPU, Universal Postal Union, the post office. Why?
Everything that is postal is through the UPU, all the way up and down the chain. So yet that having that address or that number on that box attached to your house or even at your property line is an attachment all the way up the line to the UPU. It is a support system. SUP, S-U-P, supplemental or superior porting. Again, the superior and most supreme porting is Psalms 121:8.
Current services and or why? Current services and business issues. Issues is the origination. Who issued it? Who posted it? Okay? And when we're talking about origination, we're talking about the origin. It's not of the same like kind. It came from a different route. It came from outside their route. As we go on, it's market share. It enters into a market share. If you're going to share in that market, make sure it's free so they can't place liability. I provide free education, nothing more. Again, like I said, they're talking about the letter mail that takes days to get from point to point, whereas hybrid electronic mail.
Education, again, my firm belief, is the benefit.
Origins can reach from point to point within seconds. It is, in fact, a matter of time. They are trying to help you make efficient use of your time. I'm trying to help show you how to do that most effectively. Courier services. They are a courier service. They are posting your post via that trust.
And this is the same concept that I pose with Facebook and YouTube and StreamYard. These are just publishers. You're the creator of the content. You're the one that gives them the data elements that they would otherwise not have because they can't just create it on their own.
And that parcel, that share, because it's part of this environment, whether it be commercial or otherwise, it is the same electronic environment. And the parcel are the digital data elements that they track and trace back and forth to its origin and its final destination.
And so, yes, back to Imperium Privatus comment, it is no longer banking wars. Now it's data wars, aka cyber wars. And this is why the Patriot Act is so important as well, along with the comprehension that the cybersecurity is already set up. Okay? You don't have to have all these antivirus things as long as you're being diligent in your accessing various certain points and making sure that they are secure. You don't go to Pornhub and shit, guys. Come on. I've had the same email with Yahoo for over 25 years. And on this laptop, I don't have any other security than what came with Windows. It's an automatic programming already. Everything's already done. You just need to comprehend how it's being used in this usufruct.
Example, postal electronic services strategies. Business model examples for members. Remember, this is a business model, not a private model, which means it doesn't apply to private people. None of this down here is going to apply to private people. This is all we have to assert. We're not entering into financial services. The financial services were already taken care of and recorded through PayPal, who has a private routing and a private agreement now that this is a private foundation, and the name and number refer to the beneficiary record per the intent of the user who entered and issued that information. It was my issue. I am the originator. PayPal doesn't have the ability to change that intent any way, shape, or form. Okay?
And this is why I say if they want to change the intent of what is clearly supposed to be a donation of any sort, because not because of the sender, but because of my capacity as not being able to generate this thing called income and make payments of being a buyer or seller. I don't need a mark of the beast to accept the overwhelming of others in exchange for the acceptance in return of the overwhelming of mine, no matter what our private determination of those two values are. That is our private equal consideration and equal benefit. A third party intervening of that by changing that donation to a payment would have certain requirements of proving that. Otherwise, they are the one entering false records.
Now, Sweden, ear, Nordic bloc. Messages, goods, and payments enter into a circle. Now, if it's only going in as a message and there are no goods or payments, the full integration of the messaging will show that the financial transactions and logistics fulfill the immediate delivery and distribution to the final destination without any goods or payment interferences. Because, like I said, the payment has already been paid. There is no transfer of goods. It's matter-of-factly a transfer of assets, whether they be intellectual goods or...
You understand that? That's transfer of property, which relates to all real and personal effects, as that is relative to benefactor is the one that gives to the beneficiary. And again, remember, a trust shall not fail for want of trustee. So it doesn't take a transfer through a trustee to stop and say, well, no, we need to make sure the goods are and the payment's made, and somehow there's no payment here. No. There was no communication of payment, particularly if I used a card, plate, coupon book, or other device to obtain said property on credit.
Intellectual assets or physical assets, tangible or intangible. Our common business context, the text that they use is a parlance. It is
with the grammar that they use. So again, that's the importance of Isaiah 54:17. No tongue shall prosper against you, and you shall rise up against anybody that would place false judgment against you. In order to do so, you need to learn these tongues, the grammars.
Is a different grammar. End-to-end communication, distribution, and electronic commerce. Involvement in between. End-to-end is point of origin to final destination. And this is in 19 CFR 149.3. We're going to find a lot of good information that I'm talking about in this one code. Okay. This is the customs code. And again, like I said, customs is inferior to the Postal Service. This is in fact a judicial determination.
And remember, the charges are not supposed to be passed on to the customer, right? In the UPU video we did here a few days back. So if the customer is supposed to acquire this stuff at no cost, freedom of transit is guaranteed. This is correlating customs duties for customers relative to the consumer so named in the documents. Therefore, it's important to be able to distinguish the differences through those definitions, those grammars.
The data elements make a judicial determination, and through customs, they're making a false declaration, or there's no declaration, they're making a false entry. That entry is being entered for immediate entry into transportation, rather than immediate delivery to a final destination. And this is what the problem is. Shipments intended to be entered into the United States. The United States is Washington.
And this is what I was talking about yesterday in regards to the MCO being titled as a motor vehicle, as an import, as a military fleet vehicle through the United States. But if the manufacturer is located in Detroit, Michigan, and it gets directly shipped to a place in Iowa, then how was it imported into the United States and then exported from the United States to Iowa if no such record occurs? So therefore, the only import that actually occurred is the records that went to the United States to keep track of their vehicle.
Washington, D.C., and Washington, D.C. is a consortium of documents.
As they hold interest in it until it's released to a private. being.
Documentation that belongs to the corporate entity. Nothing more. It has no judicial element. It's congressional documentation. And like I explained in my video yesterday, the Postal Service through ex parte communications, because they are the regulatory origin of communications, whether they be public or private, is the one that makes the judicial determination for the full faith and credit of the United States for legal tender of all debts, public and private.
See, and that's that preamble in that Constitution of the Universal Postal Union that talks about they're supposed to be communicating with the people of the countries so chartered. Again, the delegation of power from the lowest level all the way up to the highest level in this corporate structure still comes from the people, no matter what country.
Obligations and other securities of the United States are judicial elements of the Postal Service as public offerings in their postings in an electronic route regulated by the Postal Service. Okay. In here, it says the seller, the buyer, and the ship to party, end to end, ship to party. So wherever it reaches the customs point, and as it reaches import into the United States, from that ship to the party, it's entered into the United States. Now I ask, if American Ford Motor Company produces a American automobile, and it is not shipped, but is rather transported from point A to point B within the very same special maritime and territorial jurisdiction, was it ever entered into the United States, or was it manufactured in the United States? Man, you fact. Are the facts accurate? They are not. Because somewhere somebody is able to give a widely recognized, commercially accepted identification number for this party may be provided in lieu of the name and address. And as I explained in my video yesterday or the day before, when we apply for the SS5, it enters it's an automatic enrollment for dual eligibility. The dual eligibility is the ability to be able to use a number in lieu of the name and address, or use the name and address in lieu of the number. If we're using the number or the name and address in lieu of the name and address, we're qualified as a Medicare government or Medicare qualified government employee in the process of finishing or going through Medicaid acceptances as we are training for the eligibility to become a federal officer officially on the record. In other words, we're operating without a factual oath as a resident in hopes of one day of becoming a president. Now, like I said, the buyer and the ship to party can also use the same widely recognized number in lieu of the name and address. Now, here we talk about the country.
And that's what the real idea is about with the clamor and fear mongering about that. Everybody's got to get a real ID. No, you looked at the regulation. It says it's specifically for federal employees and contractors. So now we look at that postal address and see that that's a postal contract unit. And you're claiming that you're the resident thereof, a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent. Oops. Is that a manufactured statement?
Country of origin.
Are you acting as an imposter under congressional authority without having the proper communication with Congress to do so?
Country of manufacture, production, or growth of article. This is my article that I post, and it's enumerated on different pages through various different ways, through different titled pages. Okay? All these are different pages. It's all under one title of my first article, wordwisewarrior.art. This is a title under that article. It's an underwriting, another underwriting, another underwriting. It's underwritten by this. This is the private routing. All numbers are inside of it. Notice there's no number there. Notice no numbers. We only get to the numbers when we use the scriptures and their ordinances and codes. And so I've even placed my own code. And it is superior to that which is underwritten in English, which is a copy in English of what is up here, and it immediately describes the trust. So let's go back.
So that's an expression of the trust right there. And it's a copyright claim in simple form that cannot be misinterpreted. And notice again on the very first page, the home page of my site, it has the UPU's copyright and disclaimer.
And it's in growth. It is a private foundation not yet organized based upon the import laws, rules, and regulations of the United States.
Organized as a corporate entity under the laws of the United States. Thereby, it's a private, unincorporated association.
This is in conflict because, as I said, this is outside of the United States. This is an international World Wide Web postal route. And despite the fact that it says not secure, comprehend, that's telling you there's no securities on this. There's no...
In other words, it's free. There's no charges. There's no liabilities. There's no responsibilities. Read the disclaimer and understand I can't state anything as true or factual because I'm getting it from other sources. The only thing I can state as true and factual, again, is merely just my opinion based on my own firsthand experiences, and I can only express them the best I can. I can explain it to you, but I can't comprehend it for you.
Commerce on this. It operates under the automatic cybersecurity laws instituted through the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union for protection of freedom of transit throughout the entire Union.
As well as the Treaty of Berne, notice the domain extension is a .art, and the Treaty of Berne protects the literary and artistic works. So using the .art extension, for me, is a showing of my creativity, whether it be literal or artistic in nature. This is just my own creation, all based on my own opinions and research and evidence of what I've researched, and a disclaimer saying I don't know if any of it's true. I still can only place my opinion.
So let's go back. Commodity HTS-US number.
And this is why I stress the importance of creating your own site. When you create your own site, it's creating, again, not within the commercial domains, but outside of it, under that protection of literary and artistic works. You can make that first in time, first in line claim and still prove through the FAA, Federal not the FAA. Oh, now I'm having a brain fart again. I hate this. The people that work with the Postal Service in regards to Federal Communications Administration, Federal Communication Administration, in regards to all the documents that are ever produced in the physical form or in the digital form that are a matter of public record. And understand, anything in the digital form is a matter of public record. This is why it's inherently your responsibility to understand the cybersecurity, the routing, and how to protect yourself. And the best way to do that is by being the creator you are told you are. Ye are gods, ye shall do greater things than I. Not necessarily because you're greater than him, but you will in the future maybe face greater tests than he is or he has. So it's a matter of preventing that voodoo, both in this physical realm and in the electronic realm. And again, that's ultimately your responsibility, your capability, your accountability, your duty, in order to be able to stand on your own 2 feet to show others how to do it. Again, I can explain it to you. I can't comprehend it for you, and I cannot certainly do it for you.
Harmonized tax, or excuse me, harmonized tariff, which is the same thing, tax, it's just synonymous. Schedule, in other words, it's got to have a time, date, and day and all that. It's got to have a schedule. It's got to have something in the future and something in the past. It's got to relate to something other than now. What is true now of the United States? Again, there's no number of the United States there. Okay? It's not enumerated under the United States. The United States itself is a title that is then only able to pose its codes by enumerating them. The HTS-US number must be provided to the 6-digit level. The HTS-US number may be provided up to the 10-digit level. Remember that social security card and that number on the back. It's got a letter followed by 8 numbers. You convert that letter to its numerical equivalent, and you've now got a 10-digit number, unless it's J, K, or L. And then it's an 11-digit number, but it surpasses because then it's still readable. This element can only be used for entry purposes if it is provided at the 10-digit level.
And this is why I say when you contact the Treasury Offset Program or do a UCC 11 and that sucker doesn't show up, it's because they never entered it. It's still an impost. It's an imposter.
Okay, that number shows that it's already been entered. Is that number valid for its entry? Does it come with a valid declaration, handwritten statement signed in wet ink, validating its entry for commercial purposes, or greater by the importer of record? So like I said, if it's 11 digits, it's still composed of an importer of a record, or it's licensed customs broker, not postal office, postal member. Business model examples for members.
So again, when you're taking upon that address and the use thereof it in the wrong capacity and using that indoctrinated format of a national address and not recognizing it, you are going to be treated as a contract postal unit, principal place of business, at your residence, claiming that you're a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent.
So let's go to the virtual mailbox. Special maritime territorial jurisdiction, folks. In visual, they tell you, pay attention. First, it starts with integration by the user, telling you you are not within their jurisdiction.
Integration, because it's in integrity that must be upheld, and that's integral, which relates to integers, which is the enumeration.
Until you integrate certain things. The sender integrates by letter or fax. I'm going to tell you no. As I said before, and I'm sure the UPU and its members will agree. In fact, this could be better qualified by post / letter / fax.
See, everything, like I said, that you're doing in this electronic format, I don't care what site you visit. You start putting in data elements. You start entering numbered keys or other data elements. You are posting. They're going to ask you to click a button to send.
Okay? So I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it could be improved to help clarification that when you are posting something, you are the originator. You are the one making the post. You are the issuer of that post. Whether it be in letter form, fax form, or just simple communication, my yay is my yay. Voicemail message, telephone call, email, paging. These are all your electronic forms of sending things. Same thing here, email, post, letter, email, letter or post. Okay, letter would be entering into the mails. Post would be using the mails for freedom of transit throughout the entire territory of the Union. Public.
And this relates to the diplomatic post as an equal station to a military post.
Everybody can see it. Okay, so your sender has to know this point and what their intent is. And they're all international security. They all have an international security number. But notice, this one here would be operating through BraveNet, because that's who I got the site through, as well as PayPal, because that's the service that I use to pay. Okay. So once you, as a receiver or sender, and notice on the receiver side, they've got terminal, where you got a web TV, printer, again, a fax or a pager, letters, telephone, terminal, kiosk, that would be a laptop, cell phone. And yes, I said cell phone. Mine is a terminal, not a cell phone, because I even though it was labeled as a cell phone, I do not use it as a cell phone. I've never hooked up the phone services. I use it for the other services besides the cell phone. We can do this the same thing, establishing oneself as a bank. You can technically...
That's just like I said earlier today, I think it was, in regards to buying a truck. Just because I buy a truck doesn't mean I'm going to use it as a truck. Maybe I want to use it as a tape measure to find out how what the distance is to get from my place to grandma's. Things are defined by their use.
Establish yourself as a bank without providing any bank services except the educational services of how to conduct the banking affairs. Free education even. Or you can sell that education as a service. I prefer to do it freely. I will teach you about banking. I will teach you about taxing. I will teach you about customs. I will teach you about the postal system. I will teach you how to add 1 + 1 = 2. I will teach you how to add 5 + 5 and it equals 9. Think about that one. Okay, so now once you enter into this outer border, again, the user exterior, you still, at this point, you are your own jurisdiction. Then you take advantage of a postal route for everything that you post, whether it be a letter, fax, voicemail, telephone call, email, or paging, through the telephone, through a laptop, whether you're receiving all those things. At that point, it's in a postal route. Within that postal route, you have other services that are indentured through that Constitution of the Universal Postal Union, through their national constitution, through the commercial laws as public trustees, to provide these services just like the Postal Service. See, these are all postal services that are taken over as international or internally as national services. But you can take advantage of them from here rather than skipping over this. Let everybody recognize this right here. You do not enter in here. It's going all the way around, and everybody has the ability to get it from here. You do not have to go all the way in to the voice commerce system. You do not have to go all the way into the video commerce system. You do not have to go all the way into the text commerce system. See, I bought the phone, and I can text back and forth from this phone. I can use this phone for Facebook and drop the links and everything. I can use a laptop the same way.
I believe everybody also has access to what's known as Google Phone. And I don't care, again, what your fears are, but the Google Phone and the cybersecurity, if you're not making threats and being stupid like that, that Google Phone ain't going to do nothing to hurt you. So there's no reason why not to use it. I don't at this point, but it's available. Just one more thing to think about. You have multiple means at your hand, and as long as you know how to be responsible for yourself, you don't have to worry about other people's irresponsibilities or them saying shit like, I'm just doing my job. You're the one that comes through with the solutions, the knowledge, and the education to put that knowledge to use as the solution.
Laptop, I'm using somebody else's Wi-Fi. Same with the phone. I'm just using somebody else's Wi-Fi. And like I said, again, in another video, the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, has a contract with the Postal Service for all of these electronic communications just as well. So those routing numbers are in accordance with the FCC user number on all devices, on all of these electronic devices. The FCC has a user number. Now that user number is whether it's a private foundation. And
you can look that up on your device right now. You get into your user information, I believe it is, and it'll tell you your IP address and this and that. It'll give you an FCC number, user number.
Using it, and the FCC will.
That's telling you that there's already a binding contract between not just the phone company that sold the phone, but if you turn that phone on, whatever cellular company you're using to transfer those phone calls and stuff, with the FCC. They have to. It's a matter of cybersecurity. They have to monitor those calls. I had nothing to do with that Watergate shit. I don't care. They're still going to monitor you through these electronic devices. Get over it.
Will tell you so from its point of origin. And the Postal Service will agree. Yes. So there's your come by 2 or 3 witnesses. I am the one presenting the information to the 2 people that will go forth as 2 witnesses in their system, saying that this third guy, we have 3 against all of you. We have 3 witnesses. Same with the.
And again, this relates to using that record against them because that record itself is a witness. And the biggest witness you can use in that record is the errors. I'm just doing my job. Well, that would be an error.
The BraveNet and PayPal set up for the WordWise. I have BraveNet saying they have a routing setup that will not let them take information from this point of origin because this is a non-commercial venue. I have PayPal agreeing that I used a PayPal card that uses private bank routing and it was not a merchant number. There is no liability to be placed on that payment.
And that's another distinction I'll make here is that I've since opened an enterprise payment system account showing that I do have a merchant number, but it's not active. It hasn't been activated yet. And there will come a time where I'll have to renew that. But when that time comes, hopefully I'll have more things set up and have something ready for special deposit to incorporate the very concept that, again, is uniform throughout all jurisdictions, that I can use a card, plate, coupon book, or any other device used to obtain money, property, labor, or services on credit.
For this, the same individual man, living soul that's operating this site, and the card that used that card with this site, BraveNet, to put it up here because BraveNet holds the security.
You see what I'm saying there? See, it's BraveNet that holds the security instrument, saying that they're going to support the cybersecurity and monitor my site and make sure I'm not doing anything unlawful. So they have to be able to make a determination of law or make a determination of language and hand it over to somebody else for interpretation as to whether it violates the law. One or the other. And again, if you're the one that's ultimately responsible, I urge you to put that duty on yourself, and you will fare much better in life by looking out for yourself.
PayPal, the Postal Service, the SEC, the Treaty of Berne, even the Queen, Her Majesty, holds liability on that because I've not entered into their jurisdictions. And if she wants to say that one of her nations can push a tax liability under the Uniform Customs Codes in violation of the law of nations with somebody that's involved with the Treaty of Berne and the first article of the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union because he has adopted it.
And that goes to the aspect of having your things sent through the mails for free of charge under the same concept of those prepaid postage indicia, aka homemade stamps, is Her Royal Majesty or Her Majesty's Royal Mail, tax per queue, and various other means. Why? Because, again, the liability is already there, and that's where it's held. So all you have to do is express that. You do not have to buy the stamp and thereby exchange a promissory note for something that's supposedly promising you nothing, but the fact that you just took on a liability.
Declaration of Right to Peace, UN General Assembly. I adopted that. Constitution of Universal Postal Union preamble with a view to developing communications between peoples by the efficient operation of the postal services and to contributing to the attainment of the noble aims of international collaboration in the cultural, social, and economic fields.
And notice they came up with the cultural first, then the social, and then the economic fields.
The plenipotentiaries.
There's that term we just discussed the other day, plenary and plenipotentiary, having full power.
Of the governments of the contracting countries have subject to ratification. They are subjects. Okay? Telling you, they're subjects somewhere, aren't they? Okay? What are they subject to? Subject to ratification of this document. So they're subject to the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union, indenturing both the Treaty of Berne and the Law of Nations before you get to the Her Majesty's Uniform Customs Codes.
And that's because they want to enter into the charter for those corporate protections of indemnification and immunity.
Adopted this Constitution.
Again, there's that term adoption. See, the United States adopted this Constitution when they chartered up with the UN, and therefore their Constitution is an underwriting. It's an insurance in a different language that they are going to follow the very Constitution that they adopted.
This is on my adoptions page, and I adopted this Constitution. And the first article of that Constitution is the freedom of transit is guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union. I am, in fact, part of the Peace Corps without being recognized or named.
Peace Corps, very simply. Peace, obviously. Corps meaning body. This body is a temple.
But I thought you was an angry old man.
Absolutely. See, they just don't get it. Just because I'm in my temple and I'm at peace with myself doesn't mean I don't express myself with passion. And that's
it's
what they
funny.
don't, yeah, that's what most people don't comprehend is just because I'm being passionate doesn't mean I'm angry in the moment.
I know, I
I'm
get
merely,
that too.
yeah, it's just, people really
Why
have
are
to
you
get over
always angry?
that.
Well, I see what's going on. That's
Yep.
why.
Since 1983, the Peace Corps has partnered with the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. They have to cooperate in international development of private foundations, folks.
And again, we're just correcting the record to reflect that we are not the bad guy that they posed, and that we're actually in agreement with the United States. We're not trying to throw off the government. We're trying to show that we have the plenary powers, just like the leader of the nation does, to make our own decisions
Exactly.
outside and supplemental to their political decisions.
Through the Small Project Assistance SPA program, I love it. Sounds nice and healthy. To build capacity and empower local communities to lead in their own development. To lead in their own development, leaving all of these people out of the development and only using the services as beneficiaries by always providing a private route for the end user at the last mile, end of the line, third-party beneficiary.
Much like what we have still in existence today, and I hope I see an uptake in it. It's a great thing that I think we need for our communication system to supplement this electronic system that we have now through the internet, but the shortwave ham radio operators. And this goes to your again, my freedom to express myself means that I have the freedom to broadcast or narrowcast, as we've discussed, and generate my message to a specific few points or few directives or directions of communities rather than the world at large as a broadcast, as well as on the opposing dynamic of your right to know point A to point B with no interference. Sure, they can monitor just like they do on any kind of ham radio. You can click it on and you can listen into other people's conversations. So again, make damn sure that you're not speaking stupidity, because there are people that have been listening in, and it doesn't take these listening in devices. It takes the devices that are broadcasting and somebody else's ability to have the same damn device. Do you have a phone? I guarantee you with today's technology, you can do the same damn thing. You can listen into other people's devices. This is called hacking. It's well known.
Was built into the system.
Absolutely. Understand that concept and watch your own ass. Be a big boy and don't be doing stupid shit.
Even without the electronics,
Yeah.
it's in the Akashic record, so everything is known. You can't hide nothing from anybody, from God.
Yep.
It's all known. So just take the right action.
Everything extends from that. And it covers all postal roads and routes. This is a public offering to follow a hybrid email. Provides network, security, directory, and infrastructure by providing it yourself.
And this is what I was saying. Yahoo Mail. Damn.
I don't even think I've ever had Yahoo Mail.
I've had Yahoo Mail for over 25 years.
Wow.
And Yahoo Mail was one of the first email services, and they were called something else. They didn't last very long under that name. And then somebody else bought them out, merged, and named it Yahoo. So that's what we still have today. It's been well over 25 years. And in that time, you have to understand that being the first, Yahoo is at the top of the line of the securities laws. They're one of the greatest lobbyists for those protections to make it easy on them so they don't have to make those legal determinations, so that it's automatically written into the code. You guys understand that concept? We're moving from a literal literal U.S. code and Code of Federal Regulations program in the definitive paper form that is being programmed in another grammar in the electronic form in the individual site cybersecurity setups. And it's international. It's
Yeah, they're
worldwide.
going quantum. All these quantum computers they got.
Yeah, you think somebody planting some mic in the president's office so somebody can listen from across the street and get him for something, you think that's terrible? You can sit there on your own phone in the middle of a cornfield in bumfucked Iowa and have somebody else, I don't care where they're at, anywhere around the world, and they can tap into it somehow. So again, it goes to
Yep.
quit being a Hunter Biden and doing stupid shit when you know it's going to be exposed in the public, and especially on these fucking devices where you can't get rid of it.
Exactly.
So let's go back to it.
Learn how to network. Learn what you need for security. It's not them. It's privacy, your own privacy, your own ability to provide the routing of your networking. In all cases, you get to.
This is just like the First Amendment auditors going into these public accommodation places and doing an audit. The onus probandi of privacy is on them. They have to provide the privacy in the public venue. Same thing with this internet. This is a public venue. You have to provide your privacy because everything you put into this public venue is public.
To direct them. Title 50 U.S. Code 4305 for full acquaintance.
Why would you let your children involve themselves in this forum? If you knew that, I don't think you could seriously let your children involve themselves in this forum until they fully competently understood the differences and were able to do those such things themselves as through self-discernment. And I think that takes that age of majority. This is a very dangerous thing that we're dealing with here, and people placate, well, it's just the metaverse. No, this is the biggest human trafficking thing in the planet in history.
And discharge, a directive given for full acquittance and discharge, transferring the interest to the United States to and on and for the account of the United States, so that no person shall be held liable in any court because those courts are United States courts. We don't enter into those courts.
And see, if I'm superior to that, and I have my own international venue as a creator, and it's got certain private contracts set up, can they interfere with those contracts? Not at all. The only thing that can interfere with that is my own stupidity. So again, it's my responsibility to cover my own ass.
It's their infrastructure for their services that they are backing, which is only backed by the Swiss franc of the Treaty of Berne, indentured through, again, the Universal Postal Union's Constitution, superior to the Constitution of the United States, where in its preamble says to form a more perfect union. Where in the
and that is done by the Postal Realty Trust, Inc., which is a real estate investment trust through the Securities and Exchange Commission, and that is what backs everything today as far as those negotiable instruments.
Preamble here says, with a view to developing communications, which is pertinent to forming a more perfect union. Without developing communications, you can't help grow the union. So let's help grow the union in what?
All about the communications, all about the grammar, all about the languages. All about the tongues. No tongue shall prosper against you.
Is true. By dismissing.
There is freedom of transit throughout the entire territory of the Union, and that is preserved by your Lord. He preserves your going out and coming in. It's His word that is supposedly written on your heart.
Missing the fallacy that they are going to ignore us and quit filing shit in their system and learn how to communicate through your own developments.
Privately.
I hope you guys are paying attention. I have an opportunity through one of the acquaintances I have to maybe possibly speak with the FBI this next week, and I'm loving it.
I wish that would have come through, but they failed.
I'm loving it. I get to pull out that financial index. I get to pull out the birth record change and name control. I get to show them how I asserted that I know how the routing system works. And that now all I need to do is get everybody to recognize it, including Homeland Security redress. And the main principal purpose of that is the First Amendment, petitioning the redress of the government for grievances. And I have a definite grievance with 93 cases on the record that had misdescriptions, that I was supposedly operating as a firm without a board of directors, without my knowledge. Had
I Gift of God says, is the security agreement our set of laws? No, it's theirs. And what it does, understand this, folks, this is why I say everything in contract is actually in a trust. And so when you look up these corporate entities that are contracting and you find their SEC agreements with the 8K, 10K, and the EX 4.1, it's going to talk all about the trustee and the trust indenture. It's exposing of the trust. If you understand what the SEC is, securities, exchange, commission. That's a military unit, folks. Commission.
I known that, I would have never given a name and address. I'd have given the number in lieu of the name and address. And now I'm giving that private security name, birth record change, name control. You don't have any control over the Keith Orland Little faith-based union. Therefore, the name that you control is Keith Orland Little, and that is associated with a number. The name and number identify the record. Now, the name and number that is used to identify a record is a social security number, and therefore it identifies the social security record of the beneficiary, and that is in the custody and holdings of the Social Security Administration. So they hold the liability as well, and I am merely the benefactor, the man, the living soul, placing the facts on the record, supplemental to anybody else's mutual mistakes and accidents, causing a consistent or continuous and repeated conditions, placing public liabilities on that record. Let's be done with all of those accidents and make sure that our discretion is now heretofore with recognized as no other way, this route, and no public liabilities. Simple as that.
Yeah, because I don't have the ability to place a liability on the public record as an official or an agent of the federal, state, or municipality. That may be presumed, but I absolutely break that presumption on many points.
Help Social Security Administration put down their foot. We're holding this record, and no more public liabilities are going to be placed on this record. In doing so, you have Title 49 of the U.S. Code, expenses incidental to transfer of title to the agency. So now you can take all your instruments, your bank cards, your certificate of title, your driver's license, your business licenses, social security card, sign them all, send them all back to the Social Security Administration, the DMV, the Department of Commerce, whoever you need to send them back to, and tell them that the expenses are incidental to them as the agency for closing the account. You're going to close all.
Clearing and closing for a complete settlement. So all parties are made whole. No person is held liable in any court. It's a redemption. A salvage operation.
All those accounts. And then in that, you're going to issue a directive under 50 U.S.C. 4305 to transfer the interest to the United States, due on and for the account of the United States. And you're going to issue this under a directive of expenses incidental to the transfer of title to the United States.
And again, that's a salvage operation of a United States vessel, 18 U.S.C. 9, that's been operating under 18 U.S.C. 8, obligations and other securities of the United States, in 18 U.S.C. 7, special maritime territorial jurisdiction, without fully knowing that he was doing what he was doing was in fact in error.
Again, under 50 U.S.C. 4305, notifying them that all of these securities need to be transferred, titles need to be transferred to the United States for settlement and clearing of all accounts, making all parties whole, so no person shall be held liable in any court.
So that you can transfer any remainder that would be considered assets and convert it into credits into a private trust account.
Publishing the balance of the account,
an offshore type account,
so that all remainder credits can then be transferred with expenses incidental to title transfer of title to the Postal Service through a merger under the new name.
So the merger of the new name is Keith Orland Little FBU, and it has an established trust account, thereby expressing the trust in that form. And like the trust was expressed in my site as well as it's expressed again on the faith-based union page in a different form. And so we have multiple expressions of how I believe this trust is supposed to work. And unless anybody else can rebut it, then it stands. So that's all I'm doing, is developing along the way an establishment of the express trust according to certain parameters that are set before me naturally. Again, I do not have to accept the certain conditions if I don't meet other conditions of being so organized.
Placing those credits.
It's a matter of developing to the stage of being organized. Every nation comes from a family, but a family isn't a nation until it's organized enough to have its own military and financial system and political system and this and that. See, it's a matter of development.
On an open-end credit account in the master trust established through Postal 1 in the international jurisdiction, establishing that you provide your own judicial directives. You have a fidelity bond with the Postal Service based on that expenses incidental to the title transfer in a merger under a new name, dismissing their bankrupt BS because of that judicial element. They, as a bankrupt corporation, they can't, not only can they not actually own anything known as assets, they can't actually put forth any judicial discretions. Why is that? Well, if we think about this reasonably and logically, if they're considered...
Why do you need a security agreement? There's already an agreement on board. This agreement is the enumeration at birth, wherein somebody gifted as an informant by giving certain data elements. The giving of those data elements was an equal consideration in what was given in return, which is the nationality of a United States citizenship, which would not have been able to be created had it not been for the very data elements that Mom gave them. It's a use of flux system. They're using your stuff. You have to learn how to use it yourself for your own benefit. And in doing so, that's when you're going to find out that all it takes is a matter of correction of the record and establishing yourself as an equal station in life. If that makes sense.
Bankrupt, then there's a contract being posed for that consideration, showing that there's equal consideration, showing that somebody else has a place in making that determination that they're bankrupt, and they're subject to them in agreeing that they're bankrupt by placing the fact that they're bankrupt on the record. And that's why they use the martial law to enforce the collection of public taxes and revenues. Article 10 of the Libra Code. The martial law chiefly affects the police and the collection of public taxes and revenues for the Army's use, its efficiency, and its operations. And those are field operations. See, that resident is an outside salesman of the corporate United States operating in the fields of martial law, and therefore has to have certain protections in order. This is in the U.S. Code as well as international protection of persons. Article 53 of the Libra Code talks about the voluntary prisoners of war. If they voluntarily choose to remain behind with their captive prisoners of war, they can voluntarily do so, and they can do that by licensures.
And see, that's where the inconsistency comes in with the conference of that nationality. Again, in that if it is a conference of a nationality known as United States citizenship, and it is an internationally protected person, then why is it the identification thereby related to it is so vehemently demanded? See, there comes a time when you've got to understand the capacities that you have as an American citizen versus that United States citizenship that was conferred upon you as a gift. And why is it being used against you in the first place, let alone based upon the fact that without that American interest, it would not exist? Again, who the fuck are these people in these positions that are making these insane determinations without the proper consideration of reality?
License is proving that you're a voluntary prisoner of war, and you didn't in fact take an oath under that military code to be part of the military service, and you didn't in fact take an actual oath. It's only being presumed because you're a dumb volunteer of the Lord. You're one of Hitler's willing executioners because you're just doing your job because that's the only thing you know how to do. You don't know how to express anything else. So please come out of her. I'm asking you. We do that by asking in Christ's name for the word of our Father. There's no other way. You can only do it through Christ. And the only way to express that is by acting like Christ. You have to walk in Christ. Matthew, when Christ walked by the tax collector's booth and called out to Matthew, Matthew had already been piqued in curiosity by listening to the Pharisees and stuff and coming from a Jewish family and stuff. And so he was kind of in turmoil himself already, and that curiosity was piqued. And so he was learning how to come out of his job. I'm just doing my job. He had an actual internal curiosity for something better, even while he was a Jew, even while he was a tax collector, things that other people named him. He himself had a thought, a concept of something better. And that is what drove him. That was his commercial drive, even outside the commerce. And so when Jesus walked by and he hollered out to Matthew and said, Matthew, come follow me. For some reason, Matthew all of a sudden said, okay, and decided to drop everything he was doing and go follow Jesus. And in this, what happened was he calculated the rest of the books for the day and took out his per diem. Because at that time, even at that time, just like today, it's martial law. And he was, in fact, working for the military as a contractor, a private contractor at that, they're working as a tax collector.
You hear that, Channel 3? Even back then, it was martial law. It's always been martial law, folks. In case you didn't understand that. It started out as a naval war. That's military. That's martial law. Don't you get it?
He was one of the police force before they actually started separating into smaller and smaller groups. And some of them just sat on what they call councils, city councils. And those city councils wrote up their little babbling contracts to have some nice guy walking around with a badge posing as the police so he could then collect that revenue for the tax collector because people were no longer just willingly walking up to the tax collector. So now we see it's just an extension of the tax collection. So again, Matthew decided, even at the highest rank thought of at that time as a tax collector for Caesar, for the kingdom of Rome, he just up and walked away. Now this military officer went back to the Roman pontiff and he says, I have to find a new collector, what do you call him, a data collector or something, for District 13. Even back then they called him District 13. At least that's what it's portrayed as. I can't say that, but and the emperor looks at him and says, well, why'd you let him go? You know, when you explain to him that he quit. Why do you need to find somebody for District 13? Well, he quit. Well, why'd you let him go? Well, he was a private contractor and we have no recourse. We have no recourse. They can't go
without recourse. They can't avoid it. They can't evade it. It's done in good faith. You're bound.
Go out and around it. They can't find any way around it. They're estoppeled because he went on his own path, his own course. And this is what we've got to start learning how to do, folks. We have to go on our own course by following somebody else that might be able to make things better.
We each have our own talents. And by subduing those talents and subjecting ourselves to remember a certain trade or business in the performance of the functions of public office, and we have no qualifications to do so except some goddamn piece of paper from somebody else that taught us how to remember certain shit, and not even still, even in those trades and businesses, you learn how to use our own thought processes. That's why we have these babbling idiots on these benches and holding guns, pointing them at you and killing people. People running away, shooting them in the back, shooting poor dogs that are doing nothing but wagging their tail.
Because if you're not helping making things better, because you're just sitting there doing your job and you're sitting there watching the
shooting into a police cruiser with a suspect that they already fully searched and killing him because of a fucking acorn. Oh my God, I fucking fell out when I heard that.
You on that nice plush couch, stuffing your face full of the chips and drinking down that poison soda. I feel sorry for you. I do. But at the same time, like I said before, I don't care whether you love me or not. I don't care whether you think of how I think about other people and the way they do things. If you truly want to make your life better, listen to me and know that I'm saying it because I love you. And I don't give a rat's ass whether you don't like what I'm saying or not. My duty is to love you. And therefore, I'm supposed to pose what I see as the ultimate truth. And I'm trying to teach you how to set up your own private routing number by using your own private wording, by taking them out of their jurisdiction and showing them that you are, in fact, in all cases, the original source. Without you being able to post it first, it would never have been posted.
And what they're posting is imposters. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, Congress shall lay and collect taxes, duties, and imposts and excises. So who's the imposter?
And that's what's truly custom. Let your yea be your yea and your nay be your nay, and every man would recognize that as reason and logic. It's natural sense. Every man knows that you really don't have control over somebody else. Yet because somebody gives you a badge, you somehow seem to think now all of a sudden you do, because there's more than one of you. Again, I say come by 2 or 3 witnesses. I have many witnesses now. I can't wait to talk to the FBI.
Again, I'm sorry that didn't
Federal
happen.
Bureau
I
of
was waiting.
Investigations. I get to help point out to him that his authority comes from the Director General of the International Bureau under the very Constitution of the Universal Postal Union for all of the information that he's looking for that will match the criminal record used through the formatted by the use of the Interstate Identification Index.
And did you guys know that even a regular attorney has more authority than the FBI? Did you know that's because they're subject to the delegated powers of the Attorney General? And the Attorney General gets his powers from the federal marshals.
Interstate Identification Index. This is all off the top of my head, folks. I will run these people.
See, they're the ones that deal with terrorism and cybersecurity and everything like that.
People in circles, and they will always see. It always comes back to your word if you know it. So please start paying attention. I'm not posing any process, UCC, SPC, 1099s, affidavits. Though we talk about affidavits, and it's important, again, that affidavit is in respect of my yea is my yea, my nay is my nay. So again, it is to that, but I'm trying to show you something higher, being able to express it without defining it through little scratch marks on paper. It's already written. Put it in the electronic form. It's already in the public domain. Pull it from a public domain, post it in your private domain, and say, nah, 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 nah.
Nah, 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 nah.
Get rid of all the fear.
See, and that's the importance of that UPU copyright and disclaimer. I urge you folks to read it. It's on the first page of my website. I'll pull my site up and drop the link real quick so you can look at that. But it's important to understand the language there and what that disclaimer is actually saying. It's telling you they're not going to take on any liability or responsibility for anything that's in error, because they're not stating anything is to be true. They're just giving you sources from where they get it. So there's the link, and we'll finish up with this real quick. I don't think there's too much. Yeah, there's only a couple minutes left.
I had a neighbor come get me today because he wanted to go get a car. Some guy had, he's actually got his own company trade name and everything. And he's got the trade name on the title, and he's got the documentation notifying the registration of the trade name. And this dumb Yahoo's got his car because one of his partners took it to him for mechanic work, and then he couldn't handle it, and his partner ended up in jail. Now the guy doesn't want to give him the company car, trying to say he's going to wait for this guy to come out of prison. Really? Let's go talk to these guys. So we went over there, and of course the police are over there, and he's trying to assert his jurisdiction. I'm listen, dude, he's some young guy. He got real offended real quick. I said, listen, this road we're standing on is known as a postal road. You better know who you really get your authority from and why they drive around without a license.
Yeah, he got really butthurt.
You want to sit there and tell me I have to subject myself to any identification or license to talk to you? You better think again about that tampering with a witness. Yeah, you want to tell me I got to enter certain data elements, or that you can't allow me to enter certain data elements because I won't give you identification? You better learn, boy. You better learn. I don't play games with knowledge. I'm going to express it to you. I'm going to let you know whether you're wearing a badge, whether you sit on a city council, or whether you're sitting there on a couch watching somebody else's comedic or dramatic life on some boob tube. I'm going to do my best to communicate directly to you. So again, I hope you're paying attention. I'm done for today. As you see, I already got my PayPal.
So what do you think, guys?
Man, you're just a wealth of information, Keith. Crazy.
All glory goes to him. I'm just, again, don't believe me. Don't believe the neighbor. Don't believe the government. For crying out loud, don't believe your mother. Do your research. And that's why I'm doing these reviews, is because I like having people up on the panel to ask questions. And I really urge that. And, you know, hopefully we'll expand on this knowledge so we can actually assert it together in unity, in that community, and grow that kind of community. Those that are actually asserting the knowledge, again, which I affirm is the benefit.
I agree. The more people that know, the better. That's for sure. We got to have a society of educated people, not dumbed down slaves just doing their job. That's old. And it's going to crumble anyway, whether they want it to or not. Things are going to happen. There's a higher force in this universe that, while humans sit there and plot and plan their little ideas, it just sits back and laughs at our folly because it's going to do what it's going to do, whether we want it to or not. And we're here
Yeah,
to learn. So
yeah, they regulate it, and they do so on a consistent basis, and they determine what the market's going to do, and they create the interest rates and the inflation and the bank runs, and they're the ones orchestrating all of this. And all you got to
yeah,
do is understand what they're doing and what the effects are and how you can avoid those effects.
I think they forget they're being watched. And there's going to be some stuff coming, I believe, this year. Like with this eclipse that's coming in April, I think people are going to be look up in the sky and they're going to see something they didn't expect this year. And they already have on the last eclipse, but this eclipse that's coming is like a big X over the country. I don't know if you know about it, but now they're saying, oh, there's going to be a comet too at the same time. Except for that comet's probably going to be a starship.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I do know the effect I want to happen, no matter what it is that people do become aware of
It's
something much
changing.
more, of something much greater, and that will materially show them that they have a much greater potential that would do them and their next generations and everybody they think they love and want to love so much better that it's almost indefeasibly undeniable. You know, something so profound, some kind of spiritual awakening that will get these people in the ass to understand that very difference between the spiritual and the manual.
Yep. There's more going on than we think. And there's more to this world than people think. It's a lot more mystical and shit than people know. And I think if they start realizing that, the people that are sleeping, they may wake up and see something different. But when you go out in the world and you walk around, you go to these organizations, any governmental place, you see what kind of people work there. They're not the brightest, that's for sure. And that's why we're in trouble. People got to wake up or it's too late.
Well,
I
yeah,
think it's happening.
and if you look at my details section, I'm always sure to include a certain thing that I created. And if you look at it, it says specifically people in government servitude
Yep.
can't understand normal thinking standards. And I
That is
love
so
saying
true.
this, and I love saying this to certain people at certain times, and I have, and I will remain to do so, that there are some that are so ignorant that I will pull that one out and just explain to them, you know, ma'am, people in government servitude can't understand normal thinking standards. So I'm done here. So and it's my literally my own private way of calling these people pigs cunts, and they don't even know it because that's how dense they are.
They are. But I see things changing. Like just the information you post, it's so valuable that you put it out like you are. Because I don't see no one else really that is doing that. Like the stuff you are putting out is way above the pay grade of most of the people out there putting information out. So it's like at
Again,
a high level.
yeah, again, all glory goes to him, and that's that thing about that the law is uniform throughout all jurisdictions. And if that's so, and the Uniform Commercial Code is the lowest of those jurisdictions, why would I pick at the scraps at the bottom when I can start at the top?
Yep.
Isn't that what was first written in my heart anyway, as I was indoctrinated so to believe through this quote Christianity?
Yep. People just need to understand the foundational principles and stuff. And, as far as knowing every single code, you probably know more code than anybody I've ever seen or met. But I'm never going to know that much code. I'm going to know what I need to know and be able to operate and honor. That's where I'm going to, because I got so much other stuff on my mind, things I want to create. I can't just totally focus on law, but I need to know what's going on with it. So that's been 10 years. I've been kind of doing that and researching and studying. And today was like the first day I actually took action because I've been working so hard for so long. I'm like, man, I gotta start doing, whether I gotta miss work or whatever I gotta do. So
Absolutely, and that's why I maintain that Titus 3:8. This is a faithful saying that that thou constantly affirm that he who believed in God be careful to maintain good works. And that's got to be at the beginning, long before any end.
Yep, it's written on your heart. That's pretty much it. If it ain't written on your heart, I don't know how you get it.
Yep. And with that, we're done for today. Like I said, I'll be back to do a review on those other two videos I mentioned earlier as far as what is a Hawala and private blockchain tactics. I'll post those. In the meantime, I've got another video or a stream already posted for tomorrow morning. Let me take a look at, can't remember exactly what I titled that here. Oh yeah, paramilitary militia, Senate Bill 3589. This is a new bill passed January 16th as it relates to paramilitary. And we've got some activists that are up in arms over this. And so I want to just go over and show the language of it so we can get a more controlled concept of what's actually going on here. Because people getting up in arms again without knowing the definitions and what's actually being stated might think that they're trying to subjugate the Second Amendment through this Senate bill, and that's just not so. Other than that, you guys got anything to say on the way out? John, I noticed you were awful quiet the whole way. I urge you, if you ever have anything to say, just ask me to pause.
Yeah, I just say that the UPU was created under the name General Union, right? In 1874. So that's like around the same time as our school system. And both systems, Keith, were set up under a Prussian construct.
Yeah,
military construct.
Yeah, French Prussian military training school. And that's truly what they're doing, is they're training you for the military by implementing a military mindset, the mentality. And what better way to form that mentality than providing free public education?
Yeah. Really good stuff.
And that is another one I will go over. I did do a video on that as well, again, a couple years ago. The General Education Provisions Act, and I think it's like 2.5 hours or so, but I'll do a review on that as well one of these days.
Yep. Sounds good.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, anything else? If not, we are out.
Yep, no, that's about it. Great info. That's all I know.
Somebody wants me, Metaversal Miscreant wants me to go over the term general. The term general, take out the first word. What is it? G-E-N-E, genes. So it's the natural, and then R-A-L, much like rail, like railroad, and rail meaning a guideline, and therefore a rule. So it's a rule, gene rule. What really rules your genes? Is it your nature, your humanity, or personality? General is a military term to make those distinctions. And the first one they're going to apply is the last name, comma, first name, as a personal description.
Yep.
Everything is military construct, even the grammar.
Yep. I think when people realize that their DNA is the most valuable asset on the planet, that they'll try and change that and keep a hold of your own DNA, because that's what they're taking from you.
Yeah, general public is kind of like the term natural person. It's a distinction between particular persons or specific persons, or say even individuals, corporations, firms, sole proprietors, LLCs, things like that. So it's giving you a more natural sense of what the descriptor is talking about. It's getting closer to a concrete noun as opposed to the abstract noun. All right.
And I think general counsel's teeth are actually in charge of many corporations,
Yep.
you know.
Absolutely. It's all military, folks. Every last bit of it.
Okay.
And that's why we talk about. I want to do a review on that General Education Provisions Act too. Go ahead, John.
No, I was just going to say, good show. And it's good that you tied this one into the ones you did last week. You know, it all blends in.
Well, yeah, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to do that throughout the reviews that I do because, like I said, and I understand it is a lot of comprehensive information, and it may seem like I'm drawing dots where there aren't any, but the more you review this same information and I can show you, it's going to correlate more and more, and you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about when I speak about those 5 different puzzles, all being 100-piece puzzles with different pictures, and then mixing them all together and trying to come up with the individual puzzles. It is very hard. I understand it. It's going to take time. It didn't happen overnight. It's not going to be resolved overnight. You're not going to be able to come up with your own remedy overnight. I urge you not to try to do this in one big jump. I quit everything all at once because I had no one else to depend on me. People have families, jobs, a lot of assets already tied up in the system you can't just drop. You've already got a major investment that you can still recoup. I urge you to start learning how to take the baby steps that are required to become your own financier.
Yep. Claim your inheritance, people.
Yep. All right. Well, with that, guys, we are done. Again, I appreciate everybody's support. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There is a PayPal link down below for anybody who wants to share some love. Please do so. It is always appreciated. Every little bit counts. And in the meantime, you know, I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back or not. That's to say, I don't care if you hate me. So may God bless you and have a good night.
Peace.